Reading with your kids.
Hey, so great to see you. Come on in. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We are coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so happy that you're here and part of our beautiful Reading with Your Kids family. Today, we are celebrating, I don't know if that's the real word, but September 21st is Alzheimer's Awareness Day. And our guest today is going to help us become more aware of Alzheimer's and dementia. Her name is Rene Schultz, and she is the author of 1,000,000 More Kisses. Before we invite Renee into the studio, I would love to invite you to visit WeWillRoar.com, because when you go there and you find out about my totally interactive school assembly, I hope that you and the principal of your kid's school or the youth minister at your church or the librarian will invite me to present a virtual performance of my show, We Will Roar, Respect Others and Read, for the kids in your community. Maybe you're a homeschooling parent. Get together a group of other homeschooling kids. We'll present a virtual performance for you. I'd love to be there live and in person. And someday soon we will be back together again. But until then, we can use the magic of technology to deliver my educational magic show right into your homes, right into your schools, right into your libraries. Sister Mary Watson, who is the principal of St. Patrick's School in McGowan, Tennessee, she wrote on Alignable, she wrote, Jedley came to our school and gave the most entertaining presentation to our students. We were all engaged and enthralled from beginning to end. His show helped every child to feel important and valued. I love that. And I would love to help the kids in your community feel important and valued, because they are. Please go to my website, WeWillRoar.com, and I hope to see you all soon on Zoom. Join us right now from the beautiful state of New Hampshire. I could probably throw a baseball. No, I'm too old to throw a baseball that far. But she's really, really close, and we're really excited to have our guest on today. She's the author of 1,000,000 More Kisses. Please welcome to the show, Rene Schultz. Renee, how are you?
I'm amazing. Stressed out trying to get my book out, but I'm amazing. Thank you. I'm having fun working the circuit, doing podcast interviews, and it's a wild ride. It's a good time.
It is. Your book is an important book, and we wanted to have you on because in October it's Alzheimer's Awareness Month, and your book addresses the subject of dementia. Which is something that loads and loads of it's something every family has to deal with on one level or another. Either it affects somebody directly in your family, or your kids know somebody whose family is going through it, or you know somebody, an extended family. It's an incredibly tough subject. So I'm really happy that you're here, because I think it's an important subject. We don't talk about it enough. So why don't we just start with tell what motivated you to write 1,000,000 More Kisses?
My motivation was I took a picture of my little tiny chihuahua standing at the top of my mother-in-law's stairs looking down. And I thought, oh, my goodness, it just looked like he was saying goodbye or something. And I was like, I need to write something on this. And it took about a year. And I had no clue what it was going to be about or whatever. And the way it came about was my love and my passion for dementia. I worked 30 years in special needs and elder care, and I guess what I knew just flowed down onto the pages. And so I took that picture, and what started as a book on loss and grief started out with Geronimo. He's newly adopted, and he's going to go in the house and meet his new family, and he meets elderly Nani. And my book is beautiful, full-page watercolor. My illustrator did an amazing job. Taking Geronimo and Nani through the New England seasons and all the fun things they did. And then one day, changes come. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was, that one day when the changes come, it's something that we experience here in our family, and it can be devastating. You mentioned your illustrator. My daughter would be very upset if we didn't give a shout out and mention the illustrator by name.
Oh, my illustrator is Becky Stout. She's in London, and she has helped me edit, do layout, get the correct files, help me load them up online. She has been absolutely incredible. And let me do a quick, no matter what limited knowledge or whatever you think you have that you can't do a dream or a passion, if you keep your faith, hope, and boundaries and you do the right things in life and you feed yourself good things and keep good people around you, that support system is going to help you fill your dreams. You're going to have a way to fill that passion. Don't ever give up. Don't ever give up. Just do yourself right and people will come along and help you support your dream. That's huge. I have chills. That's really, I was abused since diapers. I had a horrible childhood and I have had chronic pain for 30 years and I've had a lot of loss and a lot of grief. And that's why the heartfelt, even though the backbone is dementia, really my book, the story is for the kids, but the story behind the story is for adults. Grieve your past, feed yourself, nurture, and follow your dreams.
Such an important message. And I mean, my goodness, we're 4 minutes into this interview and we've just... And I want to get back to that. I want to celebrate loss and support. Those are such important things. But we're talking about dementia, and dementia can be caused by a number of different things. Our family experienced it because my mom was struck with Parkinson's syndrome, and families who are dealing with someone who's fighting with Alzheimer's disease certainly is aware of dementia. As somebody who's worked in the field, can you give us a little description of dementia, what it is, what we're talking about?
What it is, kind of just old brain, right? And the amount of people that get it is phenomenal. And I think that there's a lot of information out there. If you wanted to look in magazines or on the news, you can see it. But if you're not directly touched by it, it's not something that you're thoroughly prepared to cope with when it hits you. Suddenly your parent is forgetful or nagging you and they're moody, their moods are changing. And you're fighting and arguing over you don't even know what anymore. And you sometimes think you're going crazy, like, what is going on? And sometimes the kids are involved. Mama and Nana yelled at me for no reason. And it can cause a lot of problems that you don't have a clue where they're coming from or if it's even real or if the kid's exaggerating or if you're losing your mind. And, yeah, so when little Geronimo notices one day he's not going to the library with Nani anymore, they don't read stories anymore by the stream, and he misses the wildflowers. And it just brings a lot of changes. And then as it worsens, you're talking, maybe bringing in a bed, right, the hospital bed, and then visiting nurses coming, and all the changes that kids face. And another big point about my book I wanted to bring up is, while my book is on loss and grief, a lot of parents might, it's hard for me to market my book a little bit because it's not fun and sunshine ponies, and I've got this great merch. A lot of people don't want to bring up loss and grief with their kids. It's not something we want them to feel or to have to go through. But the fact of the matter is, we've been grieving our loss since we came out of the womb, kicking and screaming, right? And our kids are going to suffer loss, whether it's their first binky or blanket or their goldfish, or when you're 50 years old, you lose yourself. But we're almost always every day in a state of grief, whether we're grieving our favorite restaurant is closed. Now where am I going to go? What am I going to go do for lunch? I'm going to be hungry the rest of the day. And it brings up all those different emotions associated with grief, right? And it can be as simple as irritation over something simple like that, or just outright distraught for years. You never get over it. And so this is a great book to introduce kids. There's talking points on grief in the back, and so it teaches kids healthy coping skills, and that all the different emotions associated with grief, they're all normal. And this is what grief is, and sometimes we call it a broken heart, and it just takes kids through all of that. But they're also learning, like I said, when the two visiting nurses come in, and Geronimo's like, who are the strangers, and why does Nani need a baby bed with the rails on the sides? Well, Nani's weak, we don't want her to fall. And then it also takes kids further into the story of patience and sacrifice as Nani repeats herself over and over again, and Geronimo settles down into his bed, which is now old and worn because they don't go shopping anymore, and sacrifice, like he helps go shopping and cook healthy foods. And the narrator of the story is a child, So it's perfectly relatable in kids' terms, and it's so heartwarming, and the pictures are beautiful. It really just came out so spectacular. And yeah, even though dementia, loss, and grief aren't things that we want our kids to experience, and never mind, oh yeah, let's buy this book and expose my kids to it, it's just so necessary. It's just so necessary. Yeah. And families are really struggling. It also goes to how the family came around, and we cooked for her, and we stayed up at night with her, and that shows sacrifice. And the family came together to help Nani. And obviously, working in the field for 30 years, I've worked with a lot of different families. It doesn't work out so well all the time. It can really be a struggle. But this is just, it's also an encouragement for the family members to read the story and say, this is what it is. We're not alone.
Yeah.
And we need to come together. Yeah.
So important. There's so many things that you touched on, and I absolutely agree with you. There are, we've talked a lot on the show about the fact that there are so many parents out there that don't want their kids to experience any kind of sadness, disappointment. They don't want their kids to lose, so they put them in sports leagues where you don't keep score. The reality is that everybody keeps score. Yes. We just don't acknowledge it. We don't want our kids to be sad. We don't want to. There are a lot of families out there when somebody falls ill with dementia, if they're not in the immediate family, then we stop visiting Aunt so-and-so because she's out there. I don't want my kids to have to deal with this. I think that's the worst choice that you can make because, as you said, our kids do feel grief, and it's something that we need to help them understand. There's so many kids that are feeling these very uncomfortable feelings, and instead of giving them the skills to help them cope with the grief and understand what it is, it comes out as anger, and it causes the kids a lot of difficulty in their lives. So I think you're spot on, with the idea that this is a book that there's a big need for this book out there.
Yeah, and so many times, grief is something you go through. It's not like, oh, in a week you'll be fine, or, and it's, so many times we're telling the kids to not be angry, quit your crying, it'll be okay, don't worry about it, and we brush the kid off too much that they don't know that it's a process, that it's normal, all these emotions are normal. So in the book we talk about coloring a picture of your favorite time with your loved one, and Geronimo tells the children, it's okay if you want to, go for a walk and tell your loved one a funny story. Do these things and work through the emotions because it's not going to be gone in a week. You have to work through them. All you can do is go through the motions, and children need that support. Mm-hmm. They need that support. And when a mom or a dad is coming home from work and they're exhausted, they got to do dinner, whatever, and the kid's bugging them about whatever's bothering them, it's so easy to brush them off, but we've got to train them. We've got to train them to cope with the big waves that come in life.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that, of course, we touched on that causes dementia is Alzheimer's. Mm-hmm. Can you talk a little bit specifically about Alzheimer's and just the kind of stages, not the medical stuff, but just the fact that it's it's not like a cold. You don't get over it. It's not something that lasts for a week. It's a long, drawn out process, and
it can start early. It can start from a lot of different issues. It can start from a lot of different issues. There are different types of dementias, right? Mm-hmm. And it can start off with first you're not thinking correctly, or you're not communicating correctly, or you forget your words, or you get like an apathy, right? Someone will not really. They're like there's no filter. Mm-hmm. They start saying things, whether it's cruel or inappropriate, and people are mortified. It's like, what's wrong with you? Right? So it can start there. And then as you deteriorate, there'll be less eating and more forgetfulness, maybe, putting a pot of what should be a pot of water on the stove would be an empty pot on the stove with the gas on, but no flame, and dangerous things like that, or thinking you put the coffee in the microwave to heat it up, but the coffee never went in and the microwave is running and running and running. So a lot of dangerous things. And then, just the physical, not eating anymore, not being able to keep up your nutrition, and then forgetting names. not knowing who you are, and then feeling trapped and blaming. When the anger comes, when the angry part of dementia and those brain injuries come, that's a huge issue. And, you know, they could take off or think they're going to go get the mail across the street or something, or fall down a ditch. It's so dangerous, and they just our loved one needs so much support and so much help and so much patience. And this brings in another thing of self-nurturing so that we can be there for that person. Don't get me started on self-nurturing. So it's all a big cycle.
Yeah, and I think one of the most difficult parts about dealing with Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, dementia, is that it can be such a long journey and such a slow journey, and we're watching our loved one deteriorate in front of our eyes, and that is very, very difficult. It's very, very difficult for kids. Yeah, I remember one of the things, the saddest days in our family with my mom, and we knew that she was dealing with dementia and becoming forgetful. But my mom was really good at faking it. You know, she was able to kind of fake it, and you'd sit there going, does she not, I'm not sure.
That's such a hard stage.
Yes.
It's such a hard stage. You know they're wrong, but you can't argue with the poor thing. Yeah, it's such a hard stage, yes.
But this one particular day, we sat down and we went to visit my mom, and my daughter, who was her favorite, was 13 years old. And even though my mom, she acted like she knew who I was with, when we left, my daughter turned to me and she said she didn't know who I was. And I said, I'm sorry, you're right.
Yeah, we went through all of that. Yeah, I think probably every family. It's so scary. I watched this awesome video about 5 years ago, and it showed what people suffering with dementia and that type of thing go through. And they wore gloves, and they had like blinders on, and, all the different things, and to show how the sensory is, so with ear muffs on, just to show how their sensory changes, and all the, they don't see what they think they're seeing. They don't hear what they think they're hearing. Their dexterity is going. It was on YouTube, a really cool video. Yeah. Sad, but it was really interesting. Yeah.
You're mentioning self-care, and that's really important. And one of the things that was important for our family was to sit down and to have these frank, open, honest conversations with each other, to let my kids know that it was okay for them to be frustrated, and let me know that they were frustrated and sad and
open communication,
and even anger. Talk a little bit more about how important you think that is for families to have that conversation, those conversations.
Well, it's super, super, super important because, like you say, this type of thing can go on for 10, 15, 20 years. It can go for a really, really long time. And if people aren't communicating and being open with, you know what, I've had her for a week and I need some compassion here and have 3 days off. Sometimes you can't get 3 days off, but you've got to talk to each other about how you're feeling at the time, how you're doing going through it. And so many families, they may start out that way, but they end up fighting, and we hear just so many horror stories of people not able to keep it together for the long haul. And just at least starting out with, look, we have to love each other. We have to love, mom or dad, whoever it is. And like weekly, or I would say monthly, but really weekly meetings to keep up and make sure people are doing their share, and to not let petty things get in the way. Like, I picked up her prescription yesterday. You were supposed to do this. And sometimes that can be upsetting because we have the right to feel like we're doing too much. But so long as everybody is doing their best and being open and, respect, I think respect is the bottom line. I will say, at a slight risk, I will say that it was my in-laws. We took care of my mother-in-law, and there wasn't a lot of respect. And it was a really, really, really difficult time taking care of her. It was only about a year that it was super bad, so we got through it, but it was a crazy time, and so much could have been avoided, but people don't know how to communicate, and so that's all I'll say about that, but it's very important. So even if you already don't get along and there are underlying issues, you got to put all that stuff aside for your loved one and say we all need to come together and be our best person for this person.
Yeah. You have a lot of experience working with folks dealing with dementia, and one of the things that I heard when my mom was dealing with it, and we're letting folks know, she'd love to have visitors, and some folks would respond by saying, "Well, she doesn't know who I am, so what's the point in visiting her?" There's a lot of reasons to still visit that person. Can you talk a little bit about that?
They need every bit of love and comfort and familiarity as everything. Talk about how we're going to get through this without crying. Sometimes they forget that their home is their own. They don't remember their children. Maybe they can't feel love just because they're in that kind of apathetic state, but they have familiarity. They would love visitors. They would love a familiar food. They would love a hand, just having their hand held. All of it is so, so important. All that's the things that are familiar to them as much as you can. And yeah, it's very necessary. They're not, they don't become an empty shell. They absolutely don't become an empty shell, at least not immediately, maybe in the very, very end. But they still, even as they're going to the other side and you're sitting with them, they can still smell you and feel your touch. And there's still that familiarity that they just need so much.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I know, it was beautiful, but it was also heartbreaking. You could visit, we could visit with my mom, and it was very difficult, and it was very clear that she had no idea who I was.
Yeah.
But then there was this flash. It might have been 5 seconds, 7 seconds, when all of a sudden it's like, she remembers me.
And they deserve that 5 seconds.
Yes.
They deserve that opportunity to have visitors and have that 5 seconds in their day.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, talk about as difficult as it was for you to help your in-law and to care for them, and it was a struggle, and none of us want to go through it. Do you feel that in some ways it was a blessing that you chose to do the hard work to help your family get through it?
Always, always. I've always had a difficult relationship with my in-laws, but I've always been there when they were sick or needed something. I was always the one to drop everything, move in and take care of her when she broke her hip. My mother-in-law couldn't stand looking at me, but when she broke her hip, she didn't want to go to a nursing home, and she was like, "Renee, please, please, please come stay with me." And I did, and we had a nice few weeks, and then when she was all better, it went back to normal again. But it's always a blessing to reach out and to do the right thing. And I'm such a nurturer and a caregiver anyway, and I can pretty easily overlook wrongs done to me, especially when it comes to taking care of them. The same thing with my father-in-law. I took care of him when he was dying of cancer. Again, he didn't want to go to a hospital, so we moved into the 100-year-old farmhouse that was in the family. We painted it, cleaned it up as good as we could, and we moved in with him. And it was only 6 weeks that I was able to care for him, but it was like I had a new best friend after so many years of it wasn't very good. And it's always a blessing, and always better to dig down and do the hard work. But I love my in-laws anyway. We all love each other. It's just tough. Some families are, it's really, really tough, but absolutely it's a blessing. And I would do it again if another one got sick. Absolutely.
Yeah. Hey, I know folks who are going through this, or they know somebody's going through, this challenge. They're going to want, a resource, a book that will be able to, the family will be able to read together, and then and that would be a great jumping off point to have conversations about this. So where can folks go to find out more about A Million More Kisses and find out more about Rene Schultz?
My company is called Woody Knoll Publishing. And so if they go to woodyknollpublishing.com, they'll come to my website. And my book, I just put it up last night. So as soon as it's approved, it'll be ready for pre-sale. So just hopefully 2 more days. So go on, you can contact me, fill out a form, and I'll let you know as soon as everything is up. And Woody Knoll Publishing, Rene Schultz. I'm so excited.
Excellent. We've had a wonderful time. Difficult time, but a wonderful time speaking with the author of A Million More Kisses, Rene Schultz. Rene, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me on. God bless everyone.
Please be sure to join us for the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We are welcoming back one of my favorite teachers in the world, one of my favorite guests. Shannon Anderson. She will be here to celebrate Y is for Yet and let us know how we can help our kids develop a growth mindset. It's a really, really fun interview. You don't want to miss it. If you are the author of a fantastic children's book, we would love to have you as a guest on the podcast. Being a guest, it's fun, it's easy, and it gives you the chance to tell thousands of people about your fantastic book. All you need to do is to go to our website, readingwithyourkids.com. Click on the contact button that you'll find at the bottom of the page. Let us know about your great book. We'll let you know the next easy steps. Right now, it's really easy for me to say thank you to all the people who made today's show so wonderful. Of course, we want to thank our guest, Rene Schultz. Be sure to check out A Million More Kisses. Also want to thank my team, my amazing, incredible producer, Fatima Khan, my amazing and awesome author, Ambassador Peggy Cotto, my amazing daughter, Alejandra. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. I want to thank Augie the doggy for having my back here in the studio. Actually, he has my feet right now. He's right down there by my feet, keeping me safe. But most of all, I want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.